Penguin fans, need to sell a home or buy one? Go with the top producing team in the nation, the Amy Wenger team with eXp Realty. Serving Northeast Ohio for 28 years, experience real estate that achieves your goals and exceeds your expectations. Call today and tell them you subscribe to the Penguin Nation Fans podcast, and they will ensure that you are treated like family. Call 330-681-6090 or visit amysguarantee.com. Go Gwins. All right, welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of the Penguin Nation Fans podcast. As always, I am your host, Gino Leone. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at YTown Nation, and don't forget to check out my written work over on Retro Sports. Today, we're previewing one of the biggest question marks for Youngstown State heading into 2026, the special teams unit. I've talked extensively on this podcast about how special teams last season was a major weakness for the Penguins, and it cost us in several critical games, as I'm going to talk about here on this episode. There were some bright spots. I thought Andrew Lastovka made some clutch kicks for us. Flash Wilson was a huge positive in the return game. That's something that I don't think we've had in the Doug Phillips era, having a speedster like Flash Wilson who can give our offense a significant advantage on kickoff returns. But there were also several costly mistakes that had a real impact on games. So let's first run through the numbers, break down some of the key returners we have coming back and why I'm optimistic about this new coaching hire we have. And then we'll talk about some of the critical mistakes that really cost YSU some games last season. And I know people want to talk about the defense struggling last season. Look, we knew last season that the defense was going to need to improve significantly from 2024 to 2025. That defense in 2024 was far worse than what we saw last season. Last season's defense at least could stay on the field. They wouldn't get burnt on explosive plays consistently. It was not a good defense whatsoever, but it was much better than 2024. The special teams unit did not help out our defense whatsoever. We consistently put them in bad positions with both our punt coverage and kickoff coverage, and that's ultimately why I think we lost a couple of the games that we probably had an opportunity to win if our special teams executes at a high level. Let's run through some of the stats here that I pulled up. On kick returns, we had 37 kick returns for 900 yards. We averaged 24.32 yards per return, which ranked 9th nationally. That's a good stat. Again, a lot of that success had to do with Flash Wilson and what he brought transferring in from Slippery Rock. Wilson had 31 returns for 883 yards and a touchdown. His 28.48 yard average ranked 7th in the FCS, and his 883 kick returns ranked 2nd nationally. Again, that explosive X factor in the return game. That was really one of the few positives that we had in the special teams aspect of the game. Punt returns, completely different story. We had 10 punt returns for 51 yards. That's only a 5.1 yard average, which ranked 100th nationally. Max Tomczak handled all 10 punt returns. Again, we weren't really able to generate any sort of advantage with our punt return and also our punt coverage. Max Tomczak, for the most part, would just be safe hands, reliable hands. He would fair catch it, which is fine, but I'm interested to see if Thomas Fletcher brings a different approach to what he does with punt returns, because if you can generate an advantage in both kick returns and punt returns, you're going to set up your offense for a lot of success. And then on the flip side, with punt coverage and kickoff coverage, if you can pin teams back deep in certain parts of the field, that's going to give your defense a massive advantage. And that's something that I think has been really emphasized by this coaching staff this offseason, is building 3 phases to the game. If you want to compete for a national championship, you need 3 phases that are all complementing each other. We saw in that national championship game with Illinois State and Montana State just how crucial and important special teams are, because Illinois State, if their special teams executes, they win that national championship game. Instead, they have a blocked extra point attempt punt in overtime. They have a blocked field goal to win the game. That changed their season. That's how they ended their season, with a loss in the national championship game because their special teams failed to execute. Punt coverage, this was arguably the biggest problem we had last season. Opponents averaged 18.21 yards per punt return. That ranked 122nd in the FCS. Opponents had 14 punt returns for 255 yards. Again, that's just a negative value in the punt return game overall. Max Tomczak only had 5.1 yard average on his punt returns, and then we're allowing nearly 18.21 yards per punt return. That's negative value in that aspect of the game. And I'm more concerned with how bad our punt coverage defense was in getting down the field and tackling the return man. That was super concerning for YSU and hurt us in a couple of big-time games for the Penguins. On kickoff coverage, opponents averaged 22.03 yards per kickoff return. That ranked 100th nationally. So both kickoff and punt coverage need to improve significantly. If YSU wants to be a serious contender and wants to complement our defense in coverage, we really need to take a step forward. And I think with bringing in Thomas Fletcher as the new coordinator, we could see that jump and that natural progression to have a much better overall special teams unit that prioritizes punt coverage and kickoff coverage. Punting last season, look, we're going to lose Brendon Kilpatrick. He has been phenomenal for us. He had 37 punts for 1,719 yards last season. He averaged 46.46 yards per punt. He had a solid season. But now that he's gone, we have a new punter in place. Evan Anderson, a sophomore, he's going to take that step forward. I would expect him to be the starting punter. I would honestly be surprised if he is not. Anderson didn't play in 2025, but Kilpatrick was so good, it would have shocked me if Kilpatrick got benched for what was a freshman at the time, but Anderson is a former first-team Class 5A district punter in high school, has a phenomenal leg, super accurate. I'm really intrigued to see how he does this season. I think he has all the talent in the world to take the next step as a punter, and I love what Coach Fletcher has done with Evan at this point in the offseason. We do have a transfer, Lachlan Amore. He comes in from Independence Community College. He had 48 punts, a 35.4 yard average, 12 punts inside the 20, and a long of 58 yards coming from that community college. But I would honestly be shocked if Anderson is not the starting punter. I mean, he's been here the full offseason. It looks like Amore kind of joined the program as a backup punter, as sort of a security blanket. And that 35.4 yard average, there's a lot of work to be done there. And I expect Anderson to be that starting punter when we kick off against Mercyhurst. Place kicker, we have some good options here with place kicker and then the kickoff game. Andrew Lastovka has been super reliable for us. He was one of the biggest positives on special teams last year. He went 15 for 21 on field goals, 57 of 58 on PATs. He scored 102 points. His long was 49 yards. And then he went 6 for 9 from between 40 and 49 yards. He earned honorable mention all MVFC, and he also won Special Teams Player of the Week in the conference twice. The biggest game and the biggest performance for Lastovka was obviously that Towson game when he carried us to victory. He made a 48-yarder to tie the game with 1:37 left, and then he drilled the 42-yard walk-off game winner to give us that crucial out-of-conference win over Towson. That was probably the biggest kick of his career. He had a game winner earlier in his career against Illinois State, but the fact that he made back-to-back field goals from 40-plus yards to win us the game shows us his range and just how reliable and how clutch he has been for YSU in his career. He had some critical misses, right? He missed a couple of he missed a critical kick against Michigan State, and against Yale, he missed a couple of critical kicks that came back to bite us, but I'm not going to blame that on him because you're not going to make every kick you take, in the defense is more to blame, in my opinion, for that upset loss against Yale. But he's been so productive for us throughout his career. In 2023, he was 17 of 20. 2024, 12 of 17. And then 2025, he went 15 of 21. Just a guy that you want around the program. And he sort of gives Thomas Fletcher, our new special teams coordinator, a reliable anchor. The kickoff man is also a really, really good player. Josh Wilkins is back as the kickoff specialist. I saw a clip that YSU posted on their Twitter and Instagram of them doing like a 53-yard field goal, and both Wilkins and Lastovka made it. Both of these kickers have incredible range, which you love to have in your special teams unit. Wilkins last season had 89 kickoffs, 29 were touchbacks. He averaged 58.5 yards per kickoff. He appeared in all 13 games. I'm just super excited to see what Wilkins can do, and I hope that Wilkins is going to have a unit around him that is much better in kickoff coverage. We know Wilkins can kick the ball. We know he can bomb it down the field, but do we have the guys and the players who can fly down the field? Can Coach Fletcher get these guys prioritizing getting good field position for their teammates so their defense can be successful? Again, giving up those explosive returns were a major issue last season, and that is completely unacceptable. So we look at some of the problems last year and some of the games that were directly impacted by special teams and ended up being one of the reasons why we lost the game. The most prime example of special teams struggling and costing us a game, and I truly believe that special teams lost us this game, was North Dakota State. Flash Wilson fumbled a kickoff. North Dakota State got the ball at the YSU 9-yard line, and with a defense that struggled so much in the red zone, it was almost guaranteed that North Dakota State was going to score there. They scored. They made it 21-10. YSU responded. They cut it to 21-17. This is before halftime, and then YSU surrendered a 100-yard kickoff return for a touchdown. That's another massive swing in the game. So 2 touchdowns right there. That's negative 14 for special teams. That would be the difference in the game, right? YSU lost that game 38-30. If our special teams don't fumble the ball and we don't give up a 100-yard kickoff return, that's the difference in the game. You need your special teams in games like this to execute. If you lose, it cannot be because of something that special teams did, and that unfortunately was a common trend throughout the season for YSU. That kickoff coverage showed, and then a critical error by Flash Wilson in one of the most important games of the season. Michigan State, YSU allowed an 83-yard punt return, and that helped Michigan State extend its lead to 14, and then Lastovka also missed a 37-yard field goal, which sort of put us out of the game. But our offense had chances in the red zone to score. And again, you're not going to make every kick. So what's more unacceptable to me is the fact that we allowed an 83-yard punt return. Where's our punt coverage at, right? Where's our discipline at? Against Towson, we probably should have lost this Towson game. I do not know how many teams have been able to win a game when you surrender 2 fake punts, and those fake punts directly lead to 2 touchdown drives. You just cannot have that happen. Lastovka bailed us out with his field goals, including the game winner, and helped YSU escape, but that just cannot happen. You cannot allow 2 fake punts. I understand one, but the second one, you better be dialed in and be ready to stop and look for trickery from Towson. We were unable to do so in that game, and it probably should have cost us that game against Towson. And then Yale, Lastovka missed field goals from 30 and 46 yards, but we know how that game went, right? We had that massive lead. There's no reason in the world those kicks should have come back to bite us, but they did. Unfortunately, you learn from it, you get better. But I'm more concerned, again, about that kickoff coverage and punt coverage. The big offseason storyline outside of Ryan Remigio taking over the defense is the fact that Pat Shepard, our former special teams coordinator, left to become an assistant special teams coach at Virginia Tech. He spent 2 seasons with YSU. Now we have Thomas Fletcher taking over. Fletcher a super young coach, but he has an impressive background. He was a special teams coordinator and tight ends coach at West Alabama last season. He previously worked at Alabama, Florida, and UCLA, and then he was part of national championship teams at Alabama in 2017 and 2020, and has that experience coaching a season with Nick Saban. A phenomenal long snapper when he played. He won the Patrick Manley Award as the nation's top long snapper in 2020, and then he was drafted by the Carolina Panthers in the 6th round of the 2021 NFL draft. What I love most about this hire is the fact that Fletcher had a phenomenal season and a phenomenal stint with West Alabama. The Tigers had the #1 overall special teams unit in Division II last season. They averaged nearly 44 yards per punt, went 11 of 12 on field goals. But the most important thing to me about this hire is the fact that this was a team for West Alabama that really did a good job of kickoff coverage and punt coverage, the two main areas that YSU struggled with the most last season. This is a problem-solving hire, right? You bring in people that address the needs of your team, and I think we see that with Ryan Remedio on defense. I think we see that with Thomas Fletcher here. West Alabama last season allowed just 6 total punt return yards on 9 returns. I talked about punt coverage being a major flaw in our special teams unit. Well, Fletcher directly addresses that, and Doug Phillips addressed that with this hire. They ranked 3rd nationally in both net punting and punt return defense. So this is just a good hire for Thomas Fletcher. I know the sample size is small, given the fact that he's a younger coach, and last season was his first full-time role as a special teams coordinator. But I'm super excited. I think Fletcher is one of the fastest rising names in the special teams game. And I love the fact that we brought in a guy that has been on national championship teams. He's been successful as a special teams player, and he knows how important it is to have a special teams unit to win national championships. We look at the positions now. Long snapper. We have a new long snapper this season with Byron Floyd gone. I would expect Nate Boozer, who previously was at Walsh, to take that next step and be our long snapper. We also have a freshman at that position with Michael McGlone. He's a Cardinal Mooney product, standout long snapper. He had a 4.5-star rating from Rubio long snapping camp. So the talent is here with some of these key positions getting replaced with some younger talent, but I'm excited about Boozer. I'm super excited about Evan Anderson and what he brings as a punter. And then I think we have two good anchors really with our kickoff specialist in Josh Wilkins, and then also our place kicker in Andrew Lastovka. So the biggest question for me heading into the season is coverage. I've talked about this a lot. Can YSU dramatically improve its kickoff and punt coverage? We're going to be breaking in a new defense, a new look 3-4 scheme. Can our special teams position our defense in the right places to set them up to be successful? We did not do a good job of that last season, of putting our defense in a good position to be successful. Early on in the season, it's going to be so important that our punt coverage and our kickoff coverage is dialed in as our 3-4 defense gets acclimated and starts to gel together and get better and improve. We need to see that improvement. I hope we do. From what I've heard, Thomas Fletcher has done an excellent job of prioritizing special teams, but I need to see it on film that this unit has taken a significant step forward and has found answers at punter, long snapper, and can break in all of these new starters and field a successful special teams unit. I'm encouraged by what Thomas Fletcher did last season, but I need to see a larger sample size. I need to see him do it again, and I'm super excited about this special teams unit. So that's going to do it for this edition of the Penguin Nation Fans Podcast. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. Make sure to leave the show a 5-star review and continue to support the podcast on social media. For now, I'm Gino Leone, and as always, go Gwins.